junior officer of a Highland regiment at the outbreak of the First World War wore a complex but practical uniform, which had been developed to suit the demands of warfare in the period. While this would soon be adapted to suit the conditions of the trenches, the uniform of the jock in 1914 has remained an iconic image even over a century later. The underwear for a Highland officer usually consisted of an undershirt and short drawers, as well as a pair of thick woolen socks. Hose tops, with dicing of regimental pattern, were worn over the socks. The Highland shoes could be black or brown for officers, and sometimes had some decorative broguing. Garters with decorative flashes were tied around the leg to keep the hose tops from slipping down. Khaki gaiters were worn over the shoes and hose tops. These were effective in preventing stones from getting into the shoes, but didn't provide as much ankle support as the boots and puttees worn by trousered regiments. For the Black Watch, they were cut straight across the toe and had 8 white buttons. A drab shirt, with either an attached or detachable collar, was worn with the 1912 officer's service dress. The buttons were usually made of horn, bone, or metal. The kilt was made of government tartan, high in the waist with knife pleats. Unlike a modern kilt, it had no buckles and instead fastened with pins. Two green silk rosettes were worn on the kilt by officers and senior NCOs. The kilt apron was made of khaki drill material and wrapped right around the kilt to camouflage it and keep it clean. It was tied loosely at the side to allow for maximum movement. A khaki tie was worn with the shirt, and a pin inserted through the collar below the knot to hold everything in place. Although not the most practical part of the uniform, the collar and tie served to make the officer appear smart and gentlemanly. In cold weather, additional items of clothing, such as knitwear sent from home, were often worn. The officer's service dress jacket was made of wool of a similar colour to that of the other ranks, but with a step collar, large expanding pockets, and gilt regimental buttons. No collar badges were worn by regular officers of the Black Watch. The haversack carried food, as well as various other items prescribed to be carried by dismounted officers, such as wire cutters and the field service pocketbook. The Sam Browne equipment carried a revolver, ammunition, and the officer's sword, as well as many extra items such as a map case. The whistle was worn in a small pouch on the right brace of the Sam Browne kit by all officers of the battalion. The aluminium water bottle was the last piece of equipment to be put on, to allow it to be accessed easily, and the revolver lanyard was worn over all other kit. In the first Black Watch, very few officers carried binocular cases, wishing to have as few straps crossing the body as possible, and so usually carried their field glasses in the haversack instead, or simply around the neck. A watch on a wrist strap was another item required by all officers in the period. The Glengarry was blue, bound with black silk for officers, with no rosette, and a silver and gilt cap badge. This uniform and equipment was very practical, if a little wanting in terms of camouflage. During the early stages of the Great War, it proved its effectiveness in mobile warfare, and in the trying conditions of the Great Retreat. But, by November 1914, only one officer who wore it remained unscathed.